For more on the desperate race to cool the nuclear complex and prevent a meltdown, a real meltdown, let's turn to Jerry Murrayfield. He's with me. He's a former commissioner on the Nuclear Regulatory Committee. You heard Ann's reporting. Fill it in. What can you add?
This is a very serious story. I mean, really what the key issue here now is to make sure that they can get water into those spent fuel pools, whether it's by helicopter, whether it's by cannon. That water needs to get in there to avoid those rods from being exposed.
How much water are we talking about here? Just talking about the kind of thing you see on a big fire in a big city, a 5-alarm fire with the big hoses pouring in. Is that the kind of water you need?
Well, sort of. You know, the problem and the unfortunate thing is, and we're still trying to figure out why this didn't happen, but you could have put a fire hose in there a long time ago, days ago, and they didn't. And it is rather curious.
What were they using? Bucket brigades?
Well, it's uncertain. At one point, they had a relatively small number of folks at the site. They were focused on trying to deal with the reactors that were having the challenges, and it makes one wonder, what were they doing with the pools? Here in the U.S., we would have had a lot more people going into that reactor. We would have made sure that there would have been people taking care of the pools, put in, if they needed to, some fire hoses. It doesn't take a lot. Really, all you need to do is keep enough water going in there to make up for the water that's evaporating. And that's not that hard if you catch it quick.
What's more dangerous to the people of Japan now, the spent fuel that needs to be cooled, or the actual reactors themselves? They seem to be getting out of control.
No, the issues in the reactor, with the limited information that we've been receiving lately, is the containments of the reactors may appear to be intact at all of the reactors of which we've had concerns. The real issue right now are the spent fuel pools, where those are open, they are uncontained, and we've really got to get water on those to make sure that there's not additional problems.
Okay, this is an American television show. I want to talk about us. A United Nations weather forecast shows the radioactive plume sweeping across the Pacific Ocean right now and reaching Southern California by tomorrow, Friday. But officials say radiation levels, this is officials say, radiation levels will dissipate by the time that cloud reaches the United States, our west coast, and pose no danger or health risk to Americans. Can you give us, you have the confidence to tell us the sense of how dangerous is the word plume? I know it doesn't mean mushroom cloud. Yeah. It sounds close enough, though, to most people. My God, this thing, and we're used to, I grew up in the 50s, and we're used to these misty clouds transforming people into shrinking men and all kinds of crazy things affecting us. Is it truly not dangerous?
What we're going to see is not dangerous. Let me put it into context. If you look at Chernobyl, in which you had a reactor that had a major fire with graphite, lofted that material 30,000 feet, 40,000 feet in the air, and got into the jet stream.
Yes.
That material, the distance from Chernobyl to New York was about 5,000 miles. Over the course of a year, the amount of radiation that was received in the United States is 1/300th of the amount that an average person would receive. So even though there was a major catastrophe, the impacts here were small. You look at the distance from Tokyo to Los Angeles, it's actually
we're looking at one of those explosions over there right now in the stock footage here. It's pretty scary. Let me ask you, how long will there be a danger over there? A couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? How long is this going to go on?
I think it's indeterminate at this point. I mean, I would if they can keep the water on the spent fuel pools, and if they can reestablish power at the reactors themselves, which they appear to be doing.
Why is that good to reestablish power?
Well, the reason they need to reestablish power is to get the emergency cooling power capabilities back into the reactor, so you're simply not putting in seawater. You're actually using the emergency systems within the plant itself to keep the fuel.
Like a car with a water-cooled engine.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So how long, I mean, you're our expert here, so most Americans are out there worried they're buying iodine pills on the West Coast, we hear today. They're probably wearing out the CVS's out, whoever's selling this stuff.
This is not going to be a major issue for the United States. I mean, I think the important thing to keep in mind, there's a vast difference between what we can detect for radiation, and we can detect microscopic amounts of it, in the parts per billion, versus that which is meaningfully going to affect people's human health.
So we don't have to worry about the particulates landing on us.
No, we do not.
We don't have to worry about it beaming towards us, obviously.
That's correct.
Do we have to worry about those plants melting down truly, what we know as a Chernobyl-style meltdown? If those reactors, the 6 of them, whatever, if some of them do melt down, then what to us? How about to the Japanese?
Well, if we're looking only, okay, let's start first with the American people. If those reactors were to melt down, or if that fuel was to melt down, the amount of radiation would be more localized. It would be a much more serious issue for the people who live in Japan.
Would it become a dead zone?
There is an area potentially you would certainly want to keep people away from entering, because it could have very high radiation
for a long time.
It could be for a long time.
Yeah. And what about us? If there's a meltdown of one of these reactors in Japan, or several?
If there is a meltdown of those reactors, that is going to be an issue for the people of Japan. There will be radiation. It will be relatively low level. It will reach the United States.
Well, it's great having you.
And not an
I hate having you on for this reason, Jeffrey, but you're a great guest. And the people are hanging on every word. I can tell you from the size of the audience watching these shows, people in America are hanging on this information. We have never felt this need to know this information before, luckily. We've been very fortunate.
Right.
Thank you. Do you think we should have nuclear energy in this country?
I do. I do. You know, we've had an excellent safety record on the reactors over the last 30 years. They've been reliable, 90% capacity factors. It's a form of fuel that's not, that we have energy security.
Okay.
Zero carbon effect.
We'll have you back on to debate this. I think it's going to become a very hot issue politically.
I'm certain it will.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on. Thank you very much, Jerry Merrifield. Coming up, how high is the radiation risk around that nuclear plant again, and even down in Tokyo itself, the capital of the country? Can we trust? This is the big one coming up. We got some great reporters coming up on this. Can we trust the Japanese government or any government? But the Japanese government, we're going to get to the issues of cultural self-reliance and why the Japanese government have been so reticent to ask for foreign help from the first moment of this strike. First notion they had trouble, they didn't go for help. Is that just pride? And maybe it's justifiable pride. You're watching Hardball on the MSNBC.